Hey you all, welcome back to the Three Rings, and today we are talking about cities specifically designed for humans and not just for cars. Sadly, the American city is built around the automobile and not public transport or walkability or bikeability. Instead, it's built around cars and trucks. So here in LA, we used to have a thriving public transport system of rail cars back in the 1920s. But these were completely obliterated when the Highway Act of the 50s came along and we started building highways everywhere. America adopted the car-centric city. And while our highway is a great system and network of roads and is awesome for road tripping, it is inefficient at moving millions of people around a large metropolitan area like New York or LA. Now obviously New York has much better subways and metros than we do, and their public transport system is actually really good. But LA's public transport, while it is getting better, we're expanding our metro lines, and they're actually getting a rail line here in the valley. We still suffer from being an extremely car-centric city. I mean, LA is known for having some of the worst traffic in the world when it comes to car traffic. It wasn't always this way because we did have rail cars before. Now let's look at cities that do public transport right. Japan and Singapore are known as two places that do public transport really, really well. And Japan's the one I've studied just a little bit more. Their public transport system moves millions of people a day. It is constantly funded by both the government and private corporations, and they really want people to use their public transport. It is well maintained, it is extensive. Not only do they have bullet trains, but they have their subways, and they also have a bus system and a taxi system as well. But they really want people to use their public transport, and their public transport is really, really good. Japan's public transport in Tokyo is fantastic, and moving around a mega city like that, you need good public transport. LA is also a mega city, but its public transport really only moves you in and out of downtown, and it doesn't really get you to the other large areas or the other areas where people might actually commute to get to downtown for work and then to get to back home. I've been living in the San Fernando Valley, and I know a lot of people commute to Santa Monica or other places for their job. Having a great subway or train system that could get you to Santa Monica, to downtown, and all these areas would be amazing. And LA is on the right track to rebuild a lot of rail lines, and we're proposing more public transport, more walkability, and more bike paths. It is really awesome to see that local government and state government are taking seriously the fact that cities need to become walkable again. They need to become more affordable to travel. You should not be punished because you don't have a car to get to your job. You should still be able to get there via public transport. So LA is on the right path with a lot of these things, which is great to see. The two public transport projects right now that I'm excited about are the California Bullet Train from Los Angeles to San Francisco to Sacramento and San Diego. It's a large project, it's costing a ton of money, and hopefully it will be finished here in a few years. This is supposed to be a bullet train that gets people from San Francisco to LA in around 3 hours. It's a really ambitious project. If you drive through the Central Valley like Porterville and Bakersfield and Tulare County, you'll actually see some of the construction of it, and it's absolutely massive. Once this is online, this is going to change how people move around the state. The Central Valley of California has been economically underserved for quite a while. Having a bullet train that can take people from Bakersfield to LA in probably less than an hour, because it's only about an hour and a half outside of Los Angeles, is going to be insane. Pair that with a better transport system that is being implemented. We have a new rail line coming into Van Nuys from Sherman Oaks, and it's going to go all the way up to Sylmar, which is really cool. This is going to be a rail line a lot like the Santa Monica rail line. So just seeing more public transport being implemented, and its timeline is around the 2030s for both of these projects, which is still, 5, 6, 7 years off. It's exciting to see that these projects are in the works. The issue with the California Bullet Train is there's a ton of lobbying against it. The funding and the construction of it continues to get more expensive. I think the project is so big now that it does have to succeed because they poured so much money into it already. It would suck just to stop it and have wasted billions and billions of dollars. So these things I'm really excited about because it is a commitment to giving people more options. And in the country where we say, hey, land of the free, home of the brave, where freedom to, of choice is the biggest thing. Freedom is America's ideology. Giving people the ability and the freedom to travel in different ways other than the automobile is an amazing thing. So now let's talk about making cities and neighborhoods more walkable and more community-based. I believe in Spain they're trying this new project where they're closing off a lot of main streets that go through neighborhoods and only letting access through a few streets, basically making the neighborhoods car free. They're also running a program like this in LA, in downtown LA, where they are going to do the same thing, where they basically make car-free neighborhoods, which is going to be fantastic. Again, LA has a lot of cars, there's a lot of people driving, and car-related violence is an issue. If you're a pedestrian or a biker, I'm sure you've had a few times where you've almost been hit by a car. We have walked across crosswalks, obviously a lot, because that's what humans do in cities, and there's been a few times where we have almost been nicked by a car going too fast or not watching. That is a real danger in any city, and being as our bike paths and our neighborhoods are obviously car dominant, like many cities here in the West, you're gonna have a lot of cars around, and it's really cool to see neighborhoods possibly adopting a car-free neighborhood and allowing people to actually own the streets again. Also getting rid of, cars and making neighborhoods solely about people could actually make more room for infrastructure and housing if we weren't parking a ton of cars in all of our neighborhoods. There's so much wasted space that could become housing if we just dedicated more money to public transport and less money to cars and roads. That's beside the point. It's really cool that LA is launching this pilot program, and it's cool to see that they are trying new things here, because obviously we do have a public transportation issue. We do have a housing crisis, and all these things are going to help us have a better quality of life in this great city. So another thing that really made me happy is one of our local, representatives or council members made sure that we got $30 million for better infrastructure, sidewalks, and bike paths, and making neighborhoods, again, more walkable. In fact, the whole area I live in is very convenient. The mall is 5 minutes down the road. The Costco is only about 10 minutes down the road. You could technically walk there, but everything is within a 5-minute drive. A lot of the grocery stores I go to and places I frequent, I can actually walk to. There is literally a pho restaurant, an Italian restaurant, Mexican cuisine, all kinds of cuisines within less than a mile radius. And I love it, and I think it is really awesome to have that convenience. You partner that with less cars driving around and making more neighborhoods about just humans dominating them and walking in them, then that's going to make things even better. So another thing I want to talk about, and this is something that the Japanese do in Tokyo, is their zoning laws are different when it comes to residential homes. Many homes in Japan can have a business run out of one floor of the house. So if you have a 3-story home, you could run a business out of the bottom story of your home and live on the top 2 stories. Here in America, we have residential zoning, or R1 zoning, meaning you can only build a house on that piece of property. You cannot run a business out of it. It is a residential property. It is zoned for that. Again, great news for Los Angeles. We are actually updating our zoning laws to be more mixed-use zoning, which means commercial and residential zoning can be hybrided together, and we can have actually more dual functionality of use, and I think it's really, really cool. But Japan already does this, and I think this would actually be great for allowing communities to be actually more communal. Imagine you have a 2-story home, or maybe you have a garage and you're not using it for your cars, so you convert it into a small coffee shop, which you run from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's your little side hustle. So not only do people know you as their neighbor, but they know you as a part of the community that serves the community. They go to your garage coffee shop that you made. Now you are not only a part of their daily lives, but they know who you are, they know that you're in the neighborhood, you live in the neighborhood, and I think it could build connectivity. I currently work at a cafe. I picked up that job to pay off some credit card debt. What's really cool, at least with coffee shops I've noticed, is there's a lot of regulars, and you really get to know these people and have really cool conversations, and even maybe create friendships and relationships. Being able to do this almost in every neighborhood, whether you're running a little convenience store out of your garage, or a part of your home, or a coffee shop, or maybe even a little restaurant, this would allow us to connect more, because not only do your neighbors see you as a neighbor, but they see you as a staple in the community. I think this is a really cool thing, and it's actually way more convenient. You don't really need to explore far out of your neighborhood for things that you might need, whether that's groceries, a haircut, a coffee shop. It's all right there, making your neighborhood a place of liveliness, and not just for living, but shopping and enjoying new experiences. And so seeing LA run towards a more hybrid zoning and being less strict on the zoning laws is a great thing, because just zoning for one thing, I think, is only good when you're trying to zone toxic industrial plants away from homes, right? You don't want your house to be next to a cool plant. That's dangerous. So that's where I think zoning is good. But zoning has also been really bad in its effects of of segregating certain neighborhoods from others, making sure certain neighborhoods get better zoning and others don't. It's been used as a tool of racism and other things when it came to city planning, and we need to really come at zoning in a new light. And I really love Japan's zoning. Their zoning is really cool, and you can build a lot closer to commercial and some industrial, and a lot of their stuff is much more multi-purpose. A lot more things are multi-purpose in the city of Tokyo and how they zone. And seeing that coming to LA is making me really happy. For me at least, it's much easier to go to a coffee shop and meet your neighbors than it is to go knock on their door, right? Knocking on doors is scary sometimes, where it's like, oh my god, what are they gonna think of me? Are they gonna think I'm a door-to-door salesman, or like, why is this person knocking on my door? It feels like you're very much invading someone's privacy. Having a place to meet your community, the kind of third space, right? Within the community, not, at the mall or another place, but within the community, you can walk to it. You're like, oh, there's Bob's coffee shop right out of his house, and then you get to meet, all your other neighbors while you're at that coffee shop. And you're like, holy shit, I'm getting to know so many more people. The community comes together, and I think it'd be a much more beautiful experience. What is stopping a lot of American cities from having much better public transport, safer bike paths, safer walking, and more human-friendly neighborhoods? Well, it is the auto industry. The auto industry literally ripped up many of the electric rail lines that ran through LA and many other cities because these auto companies got huge. They bought up the rail companies that were running all these things and tore them out and made roads. The automobile is not a bad thing. Cars are great, and I think they're still really good for long-haul trips of road tripping and getting to certain places. And some people I've talked to are like, oh my goodness, you wanting trains and subways and stuff, you're trying to get rid of cars. No, I'm not trying to get rid of cars. What I am trying to do is give us more options. And I want to bring back the point of this. America is meant to be a country of free choice, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Yet we have so many rules around the way you can build your homes, have, businesses, how you can only travel around one way, which is by car. In a free country like America, we should have multiple ways to get around, multiple systems of transportation. This is actually more freedom. This is more opportunity. And it's more business freedom too, if you're looking at it from a capitalist standpoint. Blocking rail companies and lobbying against, rail lines and public transport is going to be bad. It's actually anti-competitive market practice. And the fact that our government and how our current business structure and capitalism works here in the West and in America is really bad. It's actually very anti-competitive, it's very anti-progress, and it's all profit. Allowing better public transport, better bike paths, all these things gives American citizens and people who live and visit this country the chance to experience it in a myriad of different ways. And that is true freedom of transport, right? Being able to bike to your work, being able to bike to the park, being able to take the train or take your car, that is the freedom I want to seek in every city. I've been to other cities like Portland where they have much better paths and you see a ton of bike paths, in certain areas where there's a bunch of bike paths like in resorts. Me and my dad would bike all the time when we go up to Oregon because we go to this resort and they had so many bike paths and walking paths along the main roads, and it was amazing. We would bike every day. Imagine if every city adopted bike paths like that. Obviously, cities like Amsterdam are well known for the fact that a lot of people bike there. Not only is it healthy, but it's a great way to get around. And here in LA, I see a ton of people biking all the time. And our city, I wouldn't say is even the most bicycle-friendly city out there. And there's a ton of people still biking because there is some biking infrastructure. But what's crazy is in the city of Santa Monica, they built a barrier between the car and the bike lane, and someone crashed into it. And the reason this person crashed into it is because they were trying to either make an illegal turn or they were drunk. But the city, some people on the city council used that as a reason to get rid of the protected bike lane, saying the protected bike lane caused this crash. No, the driver who was in the wrong caused this crash, and that barrier stopped them from flipping their car. So yeah, their car got damaged, but it would have been way worse if that lane wasn't there to protect them. And Santa Monica is actually a new area where they're really developing more bike lanes. They actually just paved in a bunch of bike lanes on Ocean Avenue that are protected and separated from the cars, and it's really, really cool to see so much more protected bike lanes and designated bike lanes in the city of Santa Monica. But then in other parts of Los Angeles, like Culver City, they've rolled back some of the bike lanes where the bikes will have to share with the bus lane. So it's very very, very interesting to see why people are against it, because to me it just makes sense to allow people to bike. It makes sense to build more trains and subways. It makes sense to create safer roads and better transportation for everyone. And I'm really hopeful, and I think the tone of this video is actually more upbeat than I usually talk about, because there's a lot of cool stuff coming our way. Now, LA obviously still has a housing crisis. This is something we need to solve, and we're working on it. We still have a homeless crisis, which we're still working on. But the main reason people are homeless, and a brand new study out of San Francisco, is due to the sudden loss of affordable housing. I think we can make our cities way more human-friendly if we lower the cost of housing and increase our budgets on making areas more walkable, making them safer, making them more accessible to public transport, and it is amazing to see LA trying to adopt this. I wanted to talk about that with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. We need more choices when it comes to transport. We need trains, we need bullet trains, we need subways, we need light rail lines, we need better bicycle paths, better walking paths, and hey, flying taxis here in the future are becoming a thing as well. There are so many ways we can move around our cities more efficiently, and my goal as a human being and what I want to do with my life is to make things better. Make systems better, make them work more efficiently, and get rid of redundancies which make things inefficient. Just because an inefficient system makes 1% of the population rich doesn't mean it should be the system that runs everything. We have to make our transportation more democratic for everybody. So, thank you again for watching. This is Gabriel signing off, and I will see you next time. Love you all.